with Brian Shapiro.
I'm kind of a big deal.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
All the smash and grabs and everything. Yeah, tell me, what race is doing that, first of all?
Okay, so you want to be a racist now? Okay.
What race is doing it? Seen it on the news?
I don't watch Klan TV like you do, sir.
Buckle up, because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
What's happening, everybody? I'm in a good mood today because it's Friday, man. We got through the week. Well, Trump barely did, but we'll get to that. Welcome to the show, everybody. You could be watching, listening, of course, on the FMAM dial, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. We're on X. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube, at PTL Radio Show, and, of course, the website, pushingthelimits.live. And, boy, do we have a lot to get to today. And a lot to talk about. And it's been a little while since the residential liberal of the Pushing the Limits radio show joined us and graced us with his presence. But, we've had the request. So, Chris Wynn joining us in studio today as we have a lot to go over. Chris, what's going on, man?
It's going great, Brian. Good to join you. Numchuck, good to see you on this fine Friday as we roll into a weekend here in the Las Vegas Valley. Brian, has there been something going on since the last time I made an appearance on this show about a little less than 2 weeks ago? Have there been a couple of events,
a few
things that have gone down?
A few.
With respect to our American political system and just America in general? A few things?
Yeah, just a few. And I want to get into this because you serve the country as well, and I appreciate anybody's service that serves this country honorably. It could be you. It could be Ron DeSantis, somebody that I disagree with on everything, or even somebody like a couch sexual abuser like J.D. Vance. In all seriousness, I don't like going after people for their service unless they broke the law, right? Unless you're Baghdadi, unless you did something terrible. But
well, yeah, that's actually a good way to describe it. It's like you said, I don't like. How about this? Okay, and I know we're coming out of the gate here hot. I get it, but when we're talking about military service to this country, right? Those veterans out there, those of us who have served the country, all right. Maybe those of you that did not serve the country should check out on this, right? Should not be talking about it unless, as you just pointed out, all right, there has been some illegal activity, right?
Yeah.
Or you have done something that's dishonorable towards the country.
Take it a step further.
But this whole thing,
Chris, what if you
that has transpired with respect to Tim Walz, the new vice presidential candidate, obviously, for the Democratic Party, right? And people chiming in from the cheap seats with their opinions with respect to his service.
Not only did they do that.
It disgusts me,
but they also,
and we're about to get into it, and I'm already at a 10.
Not only do they do that, but they support the guy who dodged the military
100%,
multiple times,
100%.
who calls John McCain sucker. They call people like you suckers and losers, says he doesn't respect John McCain because he was captured. Anyway, I just want to compare the military service, but before I do that, between Tim Walz and J.D. Vance, and the only reason why I'm doing this is because of the attacks from J.D. Vance and those on the right. Otherwise, I would never compare service. But let me just start here. Tim Walz did not lie, okay? You can't, the audio that we have heard, he never said he was in combat. He never said, I was in combat and I was carrying my AR-15. He never said he went to war. He was in Italy. He's been asked about this, okay? He supported the war. And the idea that you can just turn in your paperwork in a day when somebody says, hey, we're going to deploy you, that's also a lie. He turned in his paperwork months before they were told that they would be deployed to Iraq. That's also a lie. So if you want to say, oh, he's a coward, he didn't want to fight. And then this guy, J.D. Vance, was in an air-conditioned room writing press releases for 6 months. This guy, Tim Walz, served for 24 years. So let me just start there with the lies from the far right, the people that I have to deal with every day with this BS nonsense, and it gets me so angry. He did not lie. In that video, he was talking about weaponry. And by the way, I'm on his side when he talks about gun control because he's 100% right, and he's a responsible gun owner. And he talked about weapons of war, like the ones that are used, the ones that he used to train other individuals to fight. He never said that he was in war. It's a lie. The guy served for 24 years. The highest rank attained was the highest in the U.S. Army you can get, which was an E9, a command sergeant major. He received multiple medals. And I can go through all the medals he got compared to J.D. Vance because it's a long list of medals that Tim Walz got and J.D. Vance got. There is no comparison there. But the lies being put forth by the far right, he's a liar, stolen valor, it's the same stuff they did with John McCain. When Donald Trump said, I don't respect him because he was captured. It's what they do. It's what the right does. And it's what, if they're not making fun of Harris's laugh or her cackle, as they say, they're making fun of Tim Walz and mocking him and saying stolen valor. They're saying Kamala's not black enough or not black at all. They're talking about an alleged affair she might have had 30 years ago. She's a happily married woman, by the way. Where the hell is Melania Trump? They have nothing. And then they want to call her the border czar, which, by the way, she never was. And then you have a bill that's put forth with MAGA Republicans. And Trump picks up the phone with his orange little fingers and says, hey, don't pass this bill unless it's perfect. Wait till I get in there. You cannot make this stuff up. You're somebody that served. You see how angry I get with this stuff because I have so much respect for anybody. That's right, I said it. Anybody. Republican or Democrat, don't care where you're from, what your views are. I have so much respect for anybody who serves this country. And this is what the right does. They did it with the Swift boat stuff. Do you remember Kerry, John Kerry? They did it with Kerry. They did it with McCain. And now they're doing it with Walz. These people are despicable. They're despicable people, Chris. I've just had it with these people.
Here's the deal, Brian. It all started because both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are in a position of desperation and grasping at straws. That is why this all started. Let's go about the timeline. We want to talk about the timeline when it comes to the situation with Tim Walz and him retiring from the military. Let's go with the timeline on how this all started, right? This all started because Tim Walz gets picked to be on the ticket with Kamala Harris, right? And so there's this, the fact is acknowledged and understood that Tim Walz served 24 years in the Army National Guard, okay?
Yep.
So what happens? You go on social media and you get a bunch of people that are MAGA or right-wingers or Republicans that start regurgitating these lies that he bailed on his unit,
right.
that he's someone who, they try to portray Tim Walz like he was dishonorable when it came to his military service. And it gets repeated over and over and over again on social media. Then what happens? J.D. Vance, the vice presidential nominee on the Republican side, the one person who, he's entitled to talk about this, obviously, because we respect him and his service, right? We respect his service. So he's entitled, yes, I'll use that word, for those of us veterans who have served the country, who signed on the dotted line, who made a commitment for 8 years or more in J.D. Vance's case, or more in Tim Walz's case of serving the country.
Vance was
all right?
4 years.
So we can listen to J.D. Vance, and then J.D. Vance picks up on those lies, okay, that have been talked about for about 24 to 48 hours on social media and in the media and the conservative media, all these BS outlets, right, that have regurgitated these lies about Tim Walz's military service, right? And then, so now because he has a national platform, because he's the vice presidential candidate on the Republican side, starts talking about stolen valor.
Right.
People don't even know, like millions of Americans out there, idiots, millions of you douchebags out there and a-holes that have been on social media for the last 3 days. You don't even know what stolen valor means. They don't even know what the definitions. There's a couple definitions of stolen valor, right? There are people that served in the military that make blatant claims about them being in theater, as we call it, being in wartime, actually fighting in combat when they don't fight in combat. That's one version of it, okay? Tim Walz did not do that. That's a lie. The other thing that's way worse when it comes to stolen valor, all right, you idiots out there, stolen valor is people that didn't even serve in the military. You guys recall, I want to say like 4, 5, 6 years ago, that chubby dude that was in a mall somewhere. Remember that story?
I do,
he was wearing a full, I believe, Marine Corps uniform, and an actual, I think a former Marine actually went up to him and said, hey, brother, what unit were you in? Guy had no idea what he was talking about, no idea where he served, because he never served in the military. He was wearing, I believe he was wearing medals too. I wasn't in the Marine Corps. I was in the United States Army. And by the way, I was exactly like Tim Walz. I was in the United States Army National Guard in Massachusetts, oldest unit in the country, by the way. And I was in for 6 years. Yeah, I could have stayed in for 8. 8 is what you sign on for. And not to get into the details as to why you have options. I had options as far as like getting an honorable discharge, basically, because I was moving. But that's another point. The point I'm trying to make is that, this person back, I want to say 6 years ago, that got called out in the mall. That is the worst possible example of stolen valor, is people that never served in the military portraying themselves like they did. That has never pertained in any way, shape, or form with Tim Walz. All right? Tim Walz should be honored for his 24 years. And by the way, you talked about this yesterday on the show. I applaud you, and you got into some details. You guys left out some details that are very important, i.e., he actually acquired a disability when he was in the National Guard. He was in an artillery unit, and he had a hearing disability, essentially, that he acquired on the job in the military, which led to him actually exploring in 2002, retiring early meaning 22 years.
24.
No, he explored retiring in 2002, 3 years before he actually did retire. Mm-hmm. All right? And these morons, as you correctly pointed out, as far as the timeline, these morons out there on social media just ignore the fact that it was 6 months. He actually retired 6 months before his unit was notified that they were going to be deployed over to the Middle East, right? And people just want to ignore that here in 2024 and act like, oh, no. I heard these lies on social media, and I heard it on conservative media that he abandoned his unit. And it just gets my blood boiling, Brian Shapiro, hearing people that have never served in the military. All right? And we have a mutual acquaintance. I'm not even calling him a friend right now. I'm going to call him an acquaintance. His name rhymes with Matt Visca, who's an idiot and a moron. All right? Have spouted and repeated these lies over and over and over again, and then they bring up the word stolen valor. Brian Shapiro, do you have any idea how much that makes most of us honorable veterans blood boil?
Well,
when we hear people that never served in the military and they want to be judgmental towards
I understand.
And to make it worse, and I'll cap this off by saying this, to make it worse, they want to attack a veteran who honorably served this country for 24 years. Yeah. It is so beyond the pale and unacceptable.
I understand. So I am trying to add to this is this isn't the first time, and it won't be the last time that the far right attacks somebody's service. They did the same stuff, and by the way, they still do.
Right.
With John McCain, who is a hero, who should always be looked at as a hero, who is a POW. We saw it with the Swift boat stuff with John Kerry when he was running for president of the United States. And why do they do this? Besides being despicable human beings, right? Because anybody that would do something that's despicable to try to score political points, especially when it's a lie, is because they look at this guy, Tim Walz, and they look at the things that he's done. For example, free breakfast and lunches, for students. When you look at the bills that he has passed to help the LGBTQ community, that's another thing. I don't even like bringing up this despicable rat face's name, but Laura Loomer, who goes on social media yesterday, she's like the white version of Candace Owens.
Complete clown. Absolute clown.
And she goes
I know
on,
she is. Yeah.
She goes on there, and now she's saying that he's gay. That's their new attack now, that Walz is gay because he's pro-LGBTQ community. Because they don't have anything on this guy. They don't. He's been a good governor. He's a very well-liked governor. He's on the right side of a lot of issues. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I played the audio yesterday. It was Donald Trump himself on a phone call who not only called him an excellent guy, but also praised him for his work during the George Floyd BLM riots in Minnesota. So let's lower the temperature here a little bit because we can talk about this forever, how pissed off I am at people going after Walz and his service and the stolen valor stuff, because I've heard the stolen valor definition before, and it's despicable. And it not only does it
doesn't apply to Tim Walz. It absolutely, positively does not apply to him.
Of course it doesn't, but that's what they're doing because they know that Donald Trump's campaign is imploding. They know that all the momentum is on Harris's side. They know. And if you don't believe me, you might have heard a few clips from yesterday, which we played at Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and the nonsense. Because, they're claiming that Tim Walz is a liar. First of all, you want to talk about a weird lie. I didn't play this audio for you yesterday. I want to play it for you today because it's so weird. So, as you know, there's somebody in the media at Mar-a-Lago that asked Donald Trump about Willie Brown because allegedly, we don't know this for sure. There wasn't a $130,000 payment to a porn star. We don't know this for sure. There's no paper trail. But allegedly, 30 years ago, Willie Brown had a physical relationship, allegedly. I don't know if this is true or not, with Kamala Harris, which is, by the way, I don't care.
No.
I don't care. But
they're running against Donald Trump, Brian Shapiro.
I know.
That's all I'm going to say.
So
we're running against Donald Trump.
Right, I understand that. But I'm just giving the history of why the question was asked. And this is really, really weird. Donald Trump goes into a diatribe about how apparently he was in a helicopter with Willie Brown and they were going down. Now, it's not true, but it's a really weird lie.
It's unbelievable. It's not true, Brian.
Have a listen to this. It's so bizarre. Listen to this.
Well, I know Willie Brown very well. In fact, I went down in a helicopter with him. We thought maybe this is the end. We were in a helicopter going to a certain location together, and it was an emergency landing. This was not a pleasant landing, and Willie was he was a little concerned. So I know him pretty well. I mean, I haven't seen him in years. But he told me terrible things about her. But this is what you're telling me anyway, I guess. But he had a big part in what happened with Kamala. But he I don't know, maybe he's changed his tune, but he was not a fan of hers very much at that point.
He told me terrible things about her. Well, first of all, let me just get to the beginning here. Willie Brown was asked about this. He said it never happened. He said he was never on a helicopter with Donald Trump, and it never happened. We are learning, and maybe Donald Trump, I don't know, maybe he's got Alzheimer's, maybe he's in the bunker. We are learning that Donald Trump may have confused Willie Brown with former California Governor Jerry Brown, who at one point was on a helicopter with Donald Trump. Terrible. He told me terrible things about Harris. What, that allegedly they had an affair? You're the guy who has unprotected sex with a porn star 2 weeks after your wife has a child. By the way, Melania, she's nowhere to be found. She's in New York City walking around with her $40,000 handbags with your contractual marriage, and you haven't been in the same bed with her, I would imagine, since Barron was born. But yeah, you're the one who wants to. It's so absurd. And again, Willie Brown, on the record, has said, he's been asked about this in the last 24 hours, this never happened. Quote, he was never on a helicopter with Donald Trump. What a weird lie. What a weird thing to lie about. Maybe Donald Trump's in the bunker. I mean, I don't know.
Shap, let me weigh in on this real quick about everything that transpired yesterday.
We're going to go through it. Yeah.
Let me just make a quick comment, okay? Because I wasn't here, obviously, yesterday when this all went down. I was texting at you. I was texting at anybody that I could text at. I was all over social media because it was just an unbelievable thing to kind of witness how ridiculously pathetic and just out bat what crazy it was. Here's the deal, right? I thought that entire episode with the Association with Black Journalists was really bad for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Then I thought the J.D. Vance comments regarding childless cat ladies was something that was going to continue to have them bleed out basically as a ticket. Then I saw that transpire yesterday, Brian, and I just thought to myself, this has just become an utter, complete dumpster fire on any level possible whatsoever. And, yes, we're going to get into the details. Obviously, we are already getting into the details. The amount Brian, just to kind of take a step back and think about this. We're really in this position in America. Numchuck, Brian Shapiro. We're in this position in America where we're talking about this like it's a real thing. People use the phrase all the time, we're in the Twilight Zone. This is even beyond the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. This
is not even like, Saturday Night Live parody. This is reality that we're in when it comes to American politics right now. We, and I say we, I'm talking about myself and Democrats and the Harris Walz ticket that we are steadfastly behind, and Brian, you're behind it as well, too. Look, we're running against just a bizarro world to the 10th degree.
Well, it is
bizarre. Just unbelievable.
It gets more bizarre.
Unbelievable. It really is.
It gets more bizarre because there was a moment where Donald Trump was asked about getting shot in the ear, allegedly. This is he's very strange when he's asked about his very serious ear injury which seemed to heal up in a day. But anyway, this was the question. This was the answer from Donald Trump.
Yeah, pretty much recovered. Yeah, I'm a fast healer. It's a hell of a shot, but I'm a fast healer. Yeah, pretty much recovered. No, it didn't hit that. I got very lucky. It just hit the lobe, as they call it.
Yeah. Oh, Brian Shapiro, because
Yeah, a little
he's
bit,
still going.
not much. On top. A little. Yeah.
So he talks about
Shapiro. So 79-year-olds are just notorious for being fast healers, my friend. I mean, it's just. I mean, really, really, what are we talking about here? I mean, this is just so. And we're actually talking about this on a show that's supposed to be a legitimate radio / podcast style video show, Brian Shapiro, on PTL. We're actually talking about this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's what I say when I say take a step back and think about what we are engaging in right now and what we are talking about and what we are exploring and how we are and where we're at right now in America. It is flat out unreal.
Well, Donald Trump's earlobe apparently grew back very fast. Then he goes into it, and I'm not even going to go back to the things he said about MLK, that he had bigger crowds than MLK, which is just so absurd. I went through that yesterday. I'm not even going to go through that today because it's so ridiculous and exhausting. But he went into then, remember when he was literally campaigning on two things back in 2015, 2016, which were, we're going to build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. Mexico didn't pay for it, and he built 16% of the wall, so that never happened. And then he said he was going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. So now he's saying he had empathy for the Clintons, and that's why he didn't do it. Have a listen to this.
You know, with Hillary Clinton, I could have done things to her that would have made your head spin. I thought it was a very bad thing. Take the wife of a president of the United States and put her in jail. And then I see the way they treat me. That's the way it goes. But I was very protective of her. Nobody would understand that, but I was. I think my people understand it. They used to say, lock her up, and I'd say, just relax, please. We won the election. I think it would be I think it would have been horrible for our country and we had her between the hammering of all of the files. And don't forget, she got a subpoena from the United States Congress. And then, after getting the subpoena, she destroyed everything that she was supposed to get. I thought it was so bad to take her and put her in jail, the wife of a president of the United States, and then when it's my turn, nobody thinks that way. I thought it was a very terrible thing, and she did a lot of very bad things.
Okay, so let me first start by saying that is a lie. She didn't delete any emails after a subpoena, so that is incorrect. That's another lie. Number two, he campaigned for a year and a half. Almost every single campaign stop was, we are going to lock her up. And then the crowd chanted, their Klan cultists, lock her up, lock her up. And now we are supposed to think, the day he was elected, all of a sudden when he was asked about this, he said, no, take it easy. Obviously, he's lying. This was a lie from the beginning. Why didn't Donald Trump, well, let me start from the beginning. Why did he say he was going to lock her up? Because it was red meat for the base. They're going to vote for him. Oh, my God, he's going to lock up Hillary Clinton. We got to vote for this guy. Donald Trump knew, as many others, because it was investigated, and Hillary Clinton was cleared of any wrongdoing, of any crimes. There's no there there, just like there was no there with Hunter Biden with the laptop and everything else. There was no there with Joe Biden being a pedophile, like they say, or, being influenced. So this is another blatant lie by Donald Trump. He's now claiming that, well, I said it on the campaign trail. Doesn't say why. And then all of a sudden he said, no, take a step back. No. I don't want to do this because I don't want to put the wife of a former president in jail. Yeah, because if I think of somebody with empathy and a big heart, the first person I think about is the liable rapist felon, Donald Trump. Give me a frickin' break. This is nonsense.
Look, Anthony Scaramucci was on Morning Joe this morning, friend of the show, obviously, at PTL, and he talked about this aspect of Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not like people, Brian Shapiro. That's a direct quote from the Mooch. He just doesn't like people. So this idea that he has empathy or sympathy, or thinks about people that aren't direct family members is absurd. Look, you just played the clip, man. I gotta chime in. Diane Lampy goes on the PTL Occupy Democrats Facebook page, says, I can't hear this numbskull, emoji, laughing emoji. I mean, you just tried, and you did it was a valid effort to have like a sensible discussion and analyze Donald Trump's takes. Brian, the guy just either lies. That entire press conference yesterday, man, okay? All he does is either lie, misrepresent situations, mischaracterize things, brag about himself, talk about things that don't matter to the American people when it comes to getting elected, like crowd size, all these other aspects. He has these connectors that he uses where he says, well, a bunch of people tell me this, right? And a lot of people understand that this, and this goes on when it's a lie. You know, and look, a lot of people in the media do this because he's the presidential candidate. I get it. But it's you used the word 5 minutes ago. It's exhausting. Mm-hmm. It's become exhausting. It really has. Because we're trying to analyze Donald Trump like he's a logical, normal individual. And he talks like he is he talks like he's a 10-year-old. There are times where he absolutely, gentlemen, talks like he is not even a teenager yet, right? The whole situation, the whole thing where he's adding nicknames to the front of people. Who does that, Brian Shapiro, right? What adult that's 79 years old, about to be 80 years old, is it normal to every 5 seconds be adding nicknames to the front line? Not just Democrats that he's running against. Right. He does it to Brian Kemp in Georgia. I'm already getting amped up again, man. He does it in Georgia, in the state where the governor is a Republican who supports Donald Trump. And this guy, I know I'm getting a little crazy. This guy is up on a stage blasting away at Brian Kemp, giving him nicknames.
Well, there's a lot of Republicans that don't like it.
You can't even, you use this phrase on a lot of your shows. I watch most of your shows, not all of them. You use this phrase. You can't make this stuff up. It is just unreal what the mindset that this guy's in. And I'll go back to it. He talks like he's like a 9-year-old man.
So Chris,
it's just unbelievable.
So Chris, we could take all the insults and all the lies from yesterday, but here's what I think was and besides all that stuff, one of the main reasons, and there's many reasons why I think Donald Trump is going to lose in November. At least I hope. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not. But he doesn't really talk policy. And then when he's asked a very poignant policy questions, he doesn't answer. For example, he's asked about what I think most people in America would look at, the second or third most important issue, which is abortion. And he is asked how he's going to vote on Florida's abortion referendum. He was also asked about some other referendums, but this is the main one. And I want you to listen. Donald Trump, who's not scared of any question, how he refuses, and by the way, he's done this time and time again this year, he refuses to answer this very basic policy question. Have a listen to this.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
How are you planning to vote on Florida's abortion referendum?
On what?
How are you planning to vote on Florida's abortion referendum this November?
Well, I'm going to announce that. I'm going to actually have a press conference on that at some point in the near future. So
why won't you answer it now? Why won't you?
But you're having a press conference right now, Brian.
Okay.
He was having a press conference right now.
First of all, he's answered that question the same time over. The reason why is because he's a coward. Because he's going to lose no matter how he answers that question. It's bad for him. So he refuses to answer it. He won't answer the question. He says he's going to do another press conference, answer it later. No, you won't. He's been saying this for a year now. It is a blatant and false lie. And for all these people out there on social media that I've been getting into it with, really since Trump decided to run for president, but especially over the last 24 to 48 hours, they're saying that Kamala has just the same message in every campaign speech, right? I want you to listen to an excerpt of a speech that Donald Trump made back in 2020 when he was running against Joe Biden. Have a listen to this, at least this portion of the speech, and tell me if it reminds you a little bit about what he did yesterday. Have a listen to this.
I have to do this. I could get off that beautiful plane. It used to be black and white with a red stripe. That was mine. But that's Air Force One, you know? I get off that beautiful plane. I could come up and say, ladies and gentlemen of New Hampshire, you have no choice. You have to vote for me. Because if you don't, you'll be put in radical lefties. You'll have a depression. Your stocks will be worthless. Your 401ks will be gone. There'll be crime all over your streets. So I'm not going to work at all. I'm leaving now, but you have to vote for me because you have no choice, right? I could say. Right? Right? We stand on the shoulders of American heroes who crossed the ocean.
Yeah, sure you do. You stand. Yeah, of course you do. First of all, violent. It's another lie.
One of his aides wrote that, by the way. That wasn't him
yeah,
who wrote that.
It's another
There's no
lie
way.
by the MAGA far right. Violent crime was up under Donald Trump, way down under the Biden administration. So 401ks are doing just fine. That was also not true. Your stocks are doing just fine. That is also not true. I'm not going to sit here and say everything with the economy is perfect. But the things that Donald Trump says, if you don't vote for him, you're going to lose America. You need to vote for me to save America. Your country's going to go down the you-know-what. You have to vote for me if you're Jewish. And you don't vote for me, you must hate your religion. You need your head examined. He said that again yesterday. You hear people like Charlie Kirk say, if you don't vote for Donald Trump and you're Christian, you're not a true Christian. They've disenfranchised voters that are Christian, that are Jewish, women, with the comments that, forget about even the way Donald Trump has treated women over the course of his entire life, let alone since he's been president. But when you talk about Kamala Harris's lack of blackness and the statements he made in Chicago last week, disenfranchising, and black voters, and then the comments that J.D. Vance has made not only years ago but doubling down on it, talking about cat lady women and attacking people in a sense and wanting to tax people more because they don't have kids. I mean, and then he says yesterday that 75% of the country support him. First of all, you delusional nitwit rapist. Number one, you lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton in 2016. You lost the popular vote terribly to Joe Biden in 2020. You're going to lose the popular vote to Kamala Harris. No matter what happens in November, I can assure you, Harris is going to win the popular vote. So even the idea that people say that 50% of the country supports Donald Trump is an absolute lie. He constantly loses the popular vote. It's going to happen again in November. I don't know who's going to win the election. I tend to think that Harris is going to win. At least I hope so. But the idea that he says that 75% of the country support him, if that's the case, why even do a debate? Why don't you just take your fat ass and go play golf, you slob, every day? Go on your golf course at Bedminster, wherever the hell you want to play golf and lug your fat ass, and go play golf every day. Don't do any debates. Don't do any media interviews. And by the way, the guy did it in the lobby of Mar-a-Lago. He hasn't been campaigning all week. Where has he been? That's not a press conference. He gets up and he walks with his 5 hair transplants. He combs his hair and his fake hair, and then he steps out into the lobby. He hasn't campaigned all week. My understanding is he has an event today. He hasn't campaigned all week. Where has he been? Because I think they don't know how to handle this. They don't know how to handle this. The momentum in the polls that came out yesterday continue to show that Harris continues to gain momentum, and it is a joke.
Well, here's the deal, Brian. In that entire debacle that went down yesterday, he said he had a plethora of lies, right? And look, I hesitate to get into a discussion of ranking the lies, right? And you just pointed out a number of them with respect to that topic. The big ones for me that really stood out that I'm sure just got everybody infuriated that ginned up our base when it comes to Democrats and independents that can't stand Trump that are going to vote against him is his comments regarding abortion, where it was a complete you-know-what show as far as his discussion there. It was lie after lie after lie after lie, talking about how the majority of the country supported getting rid of Roe versus Wade, and everybody was down with that, and everything that he said about that was a complete lie and just preposterous on every level, right? Then he started talking about how the country is going into a depression, which is factually inaccurate. Okay, right. The country is not even in a recession at this point. Yes, we got hit on Monday with respect to the actual stock market, but it's rebounded, and we're not in a situation where even a recession is a reality when you listen to actual financial experts out there. When you want to talk about unemployment is what, under 5% in the country, at lowest in decades, when in fact, when there actually was a depression in the 1920s, folks, for those that need a history lesson like Donald Trump, all right, unemployment was at what, almost 25%. So like he doesn't even understand basic concepts. You just said that he doesn't deal with policy. All right, something that myself has parroted on your show, whether I've hosted the show for you or been on with you, is this idea that Donald Trump is not a policy guy. Anthony Scaramucci has pointed this out. A friend of the show, Joe Walsh, has pointed this out. He doesn't operate in that realm, Brian. He doesn't operate in policy. He doesn't talk about policy details unless he's lying about it, okay? He is this is a phrase that I use, that Anthony Scaramucci has used and many others too. He is a transactional guy. That's how he operates. That is operatus modem for DJT. That's how he tries to he just wants to get by to the next day. He wants to say whatever the person in front of him thinks that he can say to make them like him. That's how he operates. So it's not this idea that he engages in, deep thought about policy or he's a policy wonk. It's all absurd.
And I will also say this. So Kamala Harris and her vice presidential nominee are going to be in Vegas tomorrow.
Yep.
I am going to be credentialed to cover the event. I hope I'm able to ask a few questions. If they do a media scrum, we'll see. But I'm not somebody, Chris, as you know, that goes to a lot of campaign events. I didn't go to any for Obama. I didn't go to any, obviously, for Trump or even for Biden. That's not really who I am.
Well, you started, let's be straightforward about it. You started to do it here since your show became more politically politically active.
Right, so let me just finish what I was going to say, which is a campaign event that I did go to a couple months ago was the Trump campaign event. And it wasn't because I wanted to hear anything that orange rapist had to say. I wanted to go there and kind of see the spectacle of the Klan cult for myself. And I did, and I'm glad I went because it was quite enjoyable, actually. And if Trump comes back to Vegas, I'll do the same. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm excited for tomorrow. Because as Joe Walsh brought up, and others have brought up, by the way, in the media, rightfully so, in the last several days, is that when you go to a Harris rally, there's a lot of smiling. There's a lot of joy.
Absolutely. Yep.
There are people there. They're not wearing F Trump shirts. I mean, if they are, it's a very small minority of them. I haven't seen it, although I might. But no, I won't do that. But the people are having a good time. They're laughing. We don't want to go back. We want to go move forward, right? And there's a lot of smiling. Tim smiling and Kamala smiling. And there's a lot of joy in the crowd.
It's an upbeat atmosphere.
And I am looking forward to going to a political event, which I will be going to tomorrow, where it's not going to be about hatred. It's not going to be about bigotry or attacking people that are different than you because of your sexuality, of the color of your skin. I'm looking forward to going to this event tomorrow to hear a message, and who I believe historically will be not only the first female president, the first female black president. And I am looking forward to going to this event. But here's what I want to do, Chris, because we got to take a break. I went a little late here. Chris Wynn joining us in studio. I do want to take some phone calls on the other side. That number to call, 702-221-7283. And when we come back, the biggest podcaster in the world is no longer supporting Donald Trump. We'll tell you who that is and why and who this person is supporting when we come back. We'll also take some phone calls. And I also want to add that we are an independently owned radio show. So we're kind of like public radio in that aspect, where we rely on people like you to help fund the show and contribute. So how can you get involved? Well, first of all, check out the website. It's pushingthelimits.live. If you like what we do here, check out my new website. It's awesome. Pushingthelimits.live. Now we have some cool merchandise on there. Listen, coffee mugs, water bottles, shirts, hats, you name it, we got it. So we'd love it if you took a chance to take a look at that and maybe purchase something for you or a loved one or a friend. But if you don't want to buy merchandise, there's also a donate button. It's really easy, and it's on the front page of the website where you can donate. Doesn't matter what it is, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. Whatever you can afford, we appreciate, and we so appreciate your support of this show. Again, it's so easy. It's pushingthelimits.live. Again, pushingthelimits.live, and help support us what we do here, and we appreciate it a great deal. I want to hear from you when we come back. It's one of the most interactive shows you will find anywhere. We take calls from all over the world every day. And now it's your turn to call in. 702-221-7283. Your calls when we come back. It's Pushing Limits right here on KS. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. This portion of the program is brought to you by Battleborn Progress. Education is a fundamental right in the country. Donald Trump endorses school choice. It's another voucher scheme. We need leaders who understand public money needs to stay in our public schools, and Battleborn Progress believes leaders need to know this country depends on us, the workers. For more information, please check out their website. It's a great website and a great organization. I highly recommend you guys all check it out. Battlebornprogress.org. Again, that's battlebornprogress.org. If you're just joining us, you could be listening, watching the AM/FM dial KSHP, of course, globally, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, my personal YouTube page, which is growing every day, at PTL Radio Show, my X account, which is at PTL Radio Show, which is also growing every day. And, of course, we're on TikTok and we're on Twitch. We are everywhere, and we appreciate you guys being a part of the program. I did promise we would get back to the phone calls, but before we do so, Chris, I know you wanted to chime in on something we discussed last segment.
Yeah, you just talked about, obviously, that whole perspective when it comes to this Harris Walz campaign, right, and the positivity, right, this phrase that's been used a lot, right, as far as joyful warriors when you're talking about those two individuals from that campaign. So, Brian, I kind of want to get your take in response to what I'm about to say. That's juxtaposed against what? Against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. What do they do when they're in front of the camera? What have they done for the past week and a half, or past few weeks since the Republican convention? It's been a mean mugging session, right? Every time they're in front of the camera, it's always about how the country is, basically an S-hole country right now, right? We're in a terrible place. The country's going down the drain. It's just a banter of negativity across the board.
Well, it is.
Brian
sure.
Shapiro, what did you think? J.D. Vance the other day, right, 2 days ago, I believe, was asked the question, right? Well, what makes you happy, J.D. Vance? And he couldn't even answer the question, Brian. He could not even come up with an impromptu answer to the question. He starts going on and complaining about Vice President Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket and starts talking about he just completely ignored the question as, it's just, I don't understand how you can't come up with a couple of things. Brian Shapiro, what makes you happy, right? What makes you smile on a day-to-day basis? Chris Wynn, I can come up with 6 or 7 things, right?
Trump never smiles. We don't know that.
So that's the point I was trying to make is that's juxtaposed against what you're seeing on the Democratic side of the ticket, which is about what? It's about uplifting. It's about positivity.
Absolutely.
It's about hope. And on the other side, you just have doom and gloom across the board.
Well, that's why I'm looking forward to the Harris campaign event tomorrow. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. All right, I promised I'd get to our calls. Right. The phone lines have been jammed now, so if the lines are busy, my tip to you is when we say goodbye to somebody, that's the time to call in. All right, let's get right to our calls. Let's go to Chris. Chris is first up on PTL. Hi, Chris. Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Orange County, California. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Chris. Thanks for calling in, my friend. What's on your mind today?
You are welcome. Well, unfortunately, and I cannot stress that enough, unfortunately, I live in a county that is a Trump-supporting county, and it sucks really bad. But one thing that we don't talk about is the user factor of this whole thing between Trump and the right-wing, crazy, evangelical Christian people. I think that this has been going on way before Trump, as we all know. This has been going on for 40 years, 50 years. And as soon as they're done with Trump, they will find somebody else that will do exactly what they want.
So let me respond to that. There are definitely plenty of MAGA deplorables out there. Some of them are elected into office. So yes. But I personally believe, and you can tell me if you guys disagree with me on this, I believe if Donald Trump loses in November, this MAGA cultish type behavior, it's not all going to go away. But I think a lot of it is going to go away because Trump is never going to hold office again. He loses in November, thank God. And I think the Republicans will finally maybe say to themselves, okay, maybe we need to move on and go a different direction, because I don't think Trump's going to win in November. He lost the House, he lost the Senate, he lost the presidency in 2020, and I believe he's going to lose in November. And they won't have to suck up to him anymore because he's not going to be the face of the party anymore. That's what I think.
Well, Brian, here's the thing, and Chris, I'll concur with you. I agree with Chris's point as far as a blanket take that, yes, Republicans throughout the last 40 to 50 to 60 years have evangelicals have aligned with the Republican Party. Why is that? It's because their candidate before Donald Trump usually was an evangelical, right? Or someone who was a person of faith, or you could at least, see that they accepted and they actually lived by the values that evangelicals do. Now, Trump blew that out of the water, right? Trump's nowhere near any of that. Trump is not. I know he lies about it and says and acts like he is someone that's a person of faith. And actually, Donald Trump's, when it comes to religion, he's a lot like me. We both grew up Presbyterians, right? I'm not an overly religious person. I don't falsely and disingenuously talk about faith like it's on the forefront of how I live my life. Donald Trump's exactly the same way, but he's lying about it now. But to Chris's point, Chris, I think you would acknowledge, right? Donald Trump is like an outlier compared to George W. Bush, right? Both Bushes, right? Compared to Ronald Reagan, compared to Richard Nixon, compared to every Republican president, you can make the case that they do live their life as people of faith, or you could see, you know what I'm saying? You could see them representing that. And that's why it makes it so the whole hypocrisy is so visible with Donald Trump as at the top of the Republican Party.
Go ahead, Chris. Give you the last word here. Go ahead.
Trump is groveling at the feet of the Christian right wing, sector, whatever you want to call it.
No doubt.
And he will do exactly what they want him to do. Yeah. It's going to be like he's just going to be there to basically be the strong man, if you will, and I use that word weakly in the sense of just his overall personality. But he's going to be there to be the strong man for them, and the Christian right is going to actually be the one that wants to control the party.
I think the only person around, and thank you for the call, by the way, Chris. I think the only person around Donald Trump that's not doing what he wants them to do is probably Melania Trump. She probably hasn't done that for decades. 702-221-7283. She hates him more than I do. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Nelson. Nelson is next up on PTL. What's up, Nelson? How's it going, man?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Good. What's on your mind today?
I never thought it was possible, right? But I never knew Republicans could be stupid and dumb at the same time. I didn't think it was possible, but they could always continue to shock me. So now his running mate is questioning the military service of Tim Walz, even though the notification was months prior. Everything was not on the fly, like how they're trying to say. Mm-hmm. When you're on a ticket like this, you don't want to ask a question that's going to open up questions about your running mate. Well, last time I checked, his running mate made up a medical condition to dodge the draft.
And how do we know that for sure? Let's give people a little bit of background on that, Nelson. Obviously, I agree with you. So here's what happened there. Many years ago, Donald Trump dodged the draft multiple times. How do we know that? Well, he had a doctor at the time who has since passed away. Right. And I'm not just throwing stuff at a wall, and neither is Nelson, and hope it sticks. He had a doctor that wrote him a note that claimed he has bone spurs. By the way, there's no evidence that he has bone spurs. And multiple members of that doctor's family, because the doctor has since passed away, have said that their father made up that note. And by the way, it takes some bravery to say that, because that's pretty bad of a doctor to do something like that. Right. Because of his relationship with Trump, because Trump didn't want to serve. That's how we know that the family has come out and said that. That means Donald Trump dodged the draft. And yeah, I'm going to take that family's word over it, because why would they lie over something like that? Because it makes their deceased father look bad. But yet they still told the truth. This man dodged the military. He attacks people like John McCain, said the word suckers and losers. I'm going to take the word of General Milley, who put that in writing and sent it to CNN. who actually has served the country for decades as a general, over some orange turd like Donald Trump, who's never done anything fighting with his KFC sandwich. He's probably never been in a physical altercation in his entire life. He gets up in the morning, he puts on his 8 layers of orange makeup and just starts insulting people all day. He's the opposite of a man, okay? He's a loser. He's the sucker. He's the loser, as Joe Biden said. And the fact that these are the kinds of people that support Trump that you're referring to, Nelson, and yet they want to go after this guy's service to this country for 24 years, yet they support this man who dodged the military. It is the definition of hypocrisy.
Well, it's not just these people, Nelson and Brian. It's the vice presidential candidate. It's J.D. Vance, who happened to serve in the military. And by the way, to add a cherry on top of that sundae, Brian Shapiro, of everything you just talked about, to make it even worse, Nelson, all right, what did he do? Years later, right, he was inquired about the situation with his bone spurs. This guy couldn't even remember what foot that the bone spurs were in. He couldn't even remember it. He had no idea. Last time I checked, as someone who served in the military, and if you had any type of deferments with respect to, actually serving, all right, I would probably remember, Brian Shapiro, what foot that I had bone spurs in. It is, again.
Yes, I will just end with this. You are you're correct, Brian. With when you look at the two rallies, one guy says that this country's sick and doom and gloom, and the other side is all about hope and joy. At the end of the day, Kamala Harris is not making a movement. A movement is making her, and she is not standing down. They underestimated her, and now she is literally knocking it out the park. I can't wait until those two debate, including the vice president.
I agree with you, and good call, Nelson.
I mean her running mate. I can't wait to see
Tim Walz.
him debate.
I think Tim.
It's going to be so glorious, Nelson. It's going to be glorious.
Yes. What makes you happy? What makes you happy is very simple. You got a wife and kids. Your family don't make you happy. Yeah. I mean, this guy. Listen, he's a total buffoon. I can't wait till this is over. Hopefully, she wins, so we can definitely move forward, so we don't have to go back.
Well, as long as you use my word buffoon, you're good in my book, my friend. Thank you for the call, Nelson.
Have a good one.
I appreciate it. Stealing my word. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Jason's calling from Vegas. Love my Vegas peeps. Jason, what's up, man?
Okay, let's just talk real serious now.
Okay.
J.D. Vance is a pencil jockey. When he went overseas and served in the military, he wasn't in combat. He was a pencil jockey. So when he talks about service, somebody should point out and say, hey, buddy, the only time you carried anything was a pencil. So we need to point that out. If you're going to question anybody's service, let's question his.
You know what's interesting? He carried a pencil back then, and now he carries Donald Trump's jockstrap. That's what he does now. This is the same guy who once said that Donald Trump was the next American Adolf Hitler. And I'm supposed to say nice things about him and his wife? How the hell do they look in the mirror? He compared him to Adolf Hitler, but that's what the Republican Party does as a whole. Marco Rubio's...
Yeah, but Brian, you're forgetting one big thing, though. You're forgetting one big thing. This man didn't even defend his wife. When he became vice president, the right wing went after his wife, just like Ted Cruz, just like all the rest of them, even when Donald Trump disrespected his wife. These men are not men. When you don't defend your wife and you're supposed to be a soldier, but they make fun of your wife that's Indian and you don't defend her, come on, bro.
Even worse. What kind of man?
That is the epitome of not being a man.
I agree.
The reason why, though, Brian, to the caller, too, the reason why he's doing is what? It's because the guy is so ambitious. At this point in his life.
Hold on.
Well, that's the reason why, though. That's why he's doing that. That's why he's making that compromise.
Let me ask you a serious question.
Okay.
Isn't your love for your wife greater than your ambition?
Absolutely.
Why did you get married?
100%, brother. We are on the same page on this. I'm just giving you the reasoning behind why these people
we agree.
Take this approach.
Let me take it a step.
They are so ambitious. They can see it. They can they can smell it. They can taste that power. It's right there for the taking. And so they're going to compromise their ideals, right? And they're going to compromise their values in any way, shape, or form to get that power. That's why they do it.
We agree. Let me take it a step further. And by the way, Jason, thank you for the call.
Thanks, Jason.
Excellent point.
Hold on, let me hold before you say that. Let me just say one thing.
Yep.
I love Jesus Christ. I love to serve. I don't have nothing against anybody. I'm always happy because I look my face is in the Lord. So he brings me happiness. I don't have to be mad because somebody else is getting something or LGBT want to live without being beat up or shot. I don't mind them living their lives. Jesus said loves everybody, just don't love the sin. I digress. Have a good day.
Thank you, Jason, for the phone call. I will just say this. What type of man, in regards to J.D. Vance, when you attack women, cat lady, weird comments you made on the white supremacist Tucker Carlson show when it was on Fox News back in the day, and then attacks people for not having kids because that's exactly what he's done, and then he's doubled down on it. What man sends his wife to do an interview to try to defend him? And how does she even look in the mirror when he makes these irresponsible and, in my opinion, misogynistic comments about women, the cat lady comments, and then the excuses are, well, he was just joking. Is he joking when he says he wants to tax people more money that don't have kids? By the way, speaking of brave men and women in uniform, plenty of them who can't have kids. They're unable to even have kids. Not that we should even be talking about that, but that's how stupid J.D. Vance is. Let's get back to the calls at 702-221-7283. And again, the number 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to David. Hi, David. Thanks for calling in. Where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm actually out in California, San Francisco.
Sounds good. Thanks for calling in, David. So you know Harris, I'm sure, very well. Then what's on your mind today, David?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I used to have a cable access TV show out here, and back in 2003, when she decided to run for a district attorney, the cable access company asked me to be the moderator for that debate, and the incumbent didn't show up for 45 minutes, so I ended up basically interviewing her for the first part of the show.
And what was your first impression of her when you did that, moderated that?
Well, there are innuendos about her and Willie Brown, the mayor. And so I think one of the reasons why I was given the task of being the moderator was, well, part of it was I was allowing a lot of politicians to do reports to the district. And so I was seen as an independent sort of person that would, do an unbiased job. But she was, there were innuendos at the time that she was, I don't want to make it too terrible, but that she was a lightweight. But in the 45 minutes, I saw that she must have done her homework, when she went to law school, because she did just fine. And she ended up getting elected that term, and the incumbent lost. But what I was going to lead up to, and I heard this coming up, 5 or 10 minutes ago, if you've ever studied the corporate state, Mussolini came up with the treatise on the corporate state, and then Adolf Hitler took the idea and turned it into fascism.
Yep.
And the theory of the corporate state is that the big business is going to run the country, and that there are all of these monopolies that sit at the round table of government, and the people still get a chance to elect the leader, the president, but he has to compete against all of these different monopolies, the dairy monopoly, the railroads, the trucking, the energy, all of the different monopolies. And the people need to elect a person who's clever and wise and has the ability to debate against all of those different functions. But those functions, those monopolies, want the people to elect a vain fool. And so when you start looking at whether it's Donald Trump or Bush Jr. or Bush Daddy Bush or Ronald Reagan or all of these rats who are vain fools, they have no ability to compete against these monopolies. And so when the discussion came up about how long has America been suffering, 40, 50, 60, I'm going to say 80 years, because at the end of World War II, Richard Nixon and Joe McCarthy, the famous Joe McCarthy, signed documents to allow Nazis to come to America and get started.
Yeah.
And the early CIA was actually designed by one of those Nazis, the guy that handled the Eastern Front, killing all the Russians.
I definitely can't speak to that. You certainly have more historian when it comes to that than I am, but I will say this. Who is the person that is, and by the way, thank you for the call, David. Who is the person that has attacked our CIA, our FBI, two-tier justice system? Who is the person that sided with Vladimir Putin over our own CIA, FBI? Who is the person that refused to give any credit to Joe Biden for that prisoner swap last week, which was very emotional and great to see those Americans coming home? He decided to give credit to Vladimir Putin, and he didn't give credit to Joe Biden, David. That is really interesting that you moderated a situation at a public access TV station, and that woman in that room with you could very well be the next president of the United States. Before, Chris, hang on one second. I just wanted to say that my MAGA supporters out there, the MAGA callers that call into this show, I want to ask you all a question, and I challenge you on this to call in, and the question is, what did you see in that Mar-a-Lago press conference yesterday that you said to yourself, wow, that's the guy I want to support? What did you see in that Mar-a-Lago press conference where you said to yourself, wow, he did a great job? I'm just curious, what did you see yesterday that will lead you to believe that that's the guy I want to lead the country?
You mean people like Leo Terrell, who jumped on social media, and these other idiot talking heads who are trying to portray it like it was something positive that went down when it comes to that press conference with Donald Trump? And to David's point in his call, look, he got into a little bit into the weeds when it comes to, the history lesson as well as what he was talking about. But in general, I'll kind of put words in his mouth. He was talking about America needs somebody as a commander-in-chief that can negotiate between the everyman, right, the everyday people, for the people, populists, basically, right? People who are populists are people that believe that the people should be running the country, right? That as the people, in essence, have their own power as opposed to who? The elites, right? The coastal elites, whether it's on the East Coast, West Coast, whatever. And there's that pull back and forth. And to David's point is that we need to have somebody that can kind of weave back and forth between that, right? That can negotiate with that kind of dynamic in American politics where you have the elites versus, the everyman, the everywoman. Yep. And I think you can just ask the question, who do you think would be better than that? Donald J. Trump or someone like Kamala Harris? Well,
it's pretty simple. If you're a middle-aged white person that is uneducated, that comes from a racist, homophobic, bigoted background, your hero is Donald J. Trump. Chances are you're buying the gold shoes for $500 or whatever he's selling them for. You're buying the Trump Bibles, and you're an extremely ignorant person, and you probably have 3 teeth. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Lee. Lee is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Lee. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Cincinnati.
Well, thanks for calling in, Lee. What's on your mind today?
I just want to preface this question with, I do like Kamala Harris. I think she's very charming, very likable. And I think Tim Walz is kind of a guy, even though he's very left-wing, he's a guy you want to get a beer with. He's a very likable guy.
Sure.
My question or statement is, and this kind of follows up on your question you just asked to the group. Mm-hmm. Why or how would you grapple with the idea that Kamala has not done any serious sit-down interviews, press conferences, anything like that?
Sure.
Yet Trump is doing it every day.
Yeah,
it's real easy to be like, let me talk about the Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
But
let me
isn't doing it.
Sure.
Trump does it every day?
So fair criticism. Let me respond to that.
Trump doesn't do it every day.
I know. I was just going to address that. So first of all, Trump's not doing press conferences every day. He didn't do one Tuesday. He didn't do one Wednesday. He did one yesterday. But I understand your point.
But you would agree that it's more on a more regular basis than Kamala Harris.
Sure. Absolutely. And I will address that. But before I address that, let me say this. I would rather have a candidate that I'm going to support not do a press conference than somebody like Donald Trump do what he did yesterday and lie and attack and lie and attack some more. that wasn't a press. He didn't directly answer really one question. So I don't even consider that a press conference when he wakes up and goes into his lobby. And it was more of a campaign
and take
rally.
questions from the media. Right. It's not a press conference. But
now,
taking
questions
from the media.
With that said, I will take your side on this and say she needs to do an interview. Now, she was asked about it yesterday because you have like these 1 minute, 2 minute media scrums, when the vice president is on the tarmac. And she was asked about this yesterday, Lee. And she said quote, she's talking with her team and she wants to do a sit-down interview before the end of the month. Now, I think she should do one. Listen, this is a big mistake. If you listen to the show a lot, I agree with Joe Walsh yesterday. And when he said she should have done a press conference last night, just talking about that.
I can agree with that.
Crap
I can get on board
show.
with that. Yeah, I can
you
get
had
on board with that.
so much material to talk about with Trump's press conference. I think they missed an opportunity yesterday. With that said, yes, she needs to be better in front of the camera. I think she is better. I think she's already improving with even reading speeches in front of these big crowds. But I'm with you.
I mean, compared to the last guy, it's like a 200% improvement.
Well, of course, right? Of course.
Listen,
here's the thing that's frustrating to me.
Compared to Trump, that's not saying much.
Of course, we agree. But I think she's very capable. She's a very intelligent lady. She needs to improve a little bit in front of the camera. I believe her when she says she's going to do a major sit-down interview before the end of the month. I mean, I think she should do two. Go on CNN or MSNBC and then do one on Fox News. I mean, I really think she should do that. We'll have to wait and see, but here's what we do know. She said she plans on doing one before the end of the month. We know that we're going to have at least one debate, maybe more. We know we have one on September 10th. And I tend to think
he challenged her to 3 of them.
He did challenge her to 3. My understanding is she hasn't agreed upon that yet. She's agreed to 1. So I think her plan is let's do the one on September 10th. Let's see how that one goes, and then maybe we can do another one.
All right, guys, we're ignoring some very important facts here, okay, that I need to point out, okay? First of all, you just said by the end of the month. Let me tell you something. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to be on a spotlight for a week, for a matter of 4 or 5 days when the Democratic convention is here, okay? So that's number one. Number two, let's also not ignore these facts. Donald Trump doesn't have a job right now. His only job is to occasionally go into courtrooms, which he hasn't had to do as of late, right? Because he hasn't had to deal with his legal jeopardy, and to run for president. Kamala Harris is still the vice president of the United States, gentlemen, all right? She still has that job that she has to do. Now, she's also, yes, is running for president. We get that. All right? I'm not making excuses for her. I'm just pointing out facts, all right, that are getting ignored here. But the idea that she is somehow in the bunker or something or doesn't, is just avoiding contact with people in the media and the voters is ridiculous. And she's going to be much more engaged. Now, I will say this as a blanket statement, responding to the call of Brian and to you, all right? Absolutely. I think that it would be a good thing for her to do sit-down interviews in which she discusses policy in a serious way, unlike Donald Trump ever does, okay, and actually address things and give her viewpoints. I think it would be a good thing for her to do that. But the idea that she's like, someone that's just avoiding all types of interactions when it comes to the media, not true.
Okay, and I would just respond to that by saying this. There is a difference between holding a rally where you're not asked any questions, or doing a 2-minute media scrum where you answer in 5-second answers and then get on the plane. I do believe it is a mistake if she doesn't do an interview with the opposition. I do believe it's a mistake, for example, if she does an interview with George Stephanopoulos. I think you need to go on the opposition and listen. It's not really like Trump's doing that. He's not going on MSNBC either.
No, because he's presumed not having credibility, right, Brian? That's why he doesn't. That's why they don't have him on.
But this was one of the biggest mistakes, in my opinion, that Hillary Clinton made. She made plenty of them when she was running for office. She made campaign mistakes, and she's owned up to some of those. She didn't do the right interviews. She didn't do enough interviews. She didn't go on the opposition. I think these rallies are great. You just announced who your VP is, so they're pretty busy. They're going on this tour this week. They're coming to Vegas tomorrow. But I think next week is the time now. You got to sit down and you got to do some interviews. What I would recommend if I was running her campaign, which obviously I'm not, put Walz right next to her. Do an interview with both of them together. But go on multiple networks. Don't just do one interview where the right will just say, oh, you just did a puffer interview on MSNBC or something, because they're going to do that anyway. But I think you should do an interview on Fox News. Now, I'm not saying you have to do an interview on Sean Hannity's show or something of that, but do an interview with Bret Baier. Even though Bret isn't always the most credible in the world. Do an interview with Neil Cavuto. Do an interview with somebody where you would think that they would at least be a little bit more fair, but they will give you some pushback. That's what I think they should do. Do 2 interviews. Don't just do 1. Listen, Kamala, there's a lot at stake here. And while you might not be perfect in front of a camera, and while there might be some people that might have some reservations if you did an interview on Fox News, it's something you have to do. In my opinion, if you're going to win this thing, go ahead and do your interview on ABC or NBC or wherever you want to do it, or CNN. That's great. That needs to be done. That hasn't been done yet. Let's give her some time. Let her do it next week. But you have to do an interview with some opposition. And I hope that she will decide to do that, because in my personal opinion, if she doesn't, I think it's a mistake. Let's get back to the phone call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Carl. Carl is next. What's up, Carl?
Hey, hi, guys. Chris, Brian, hope you're well. Listen, I don't want to bring up anything that you mentioned before, but yesterday into his press briefing was a fact checker's paradise. What really got me, you mentioned it before about with the Martin Luther King thing, you said it was at least a million people there. Well, it was called the Million Man March.
Right.
And he said, well, I had at least as much or more. He had more. He had nothing compared to that. And here's the important part of my call. I want the American public to listen to this fact, that if what he said yesterday, all the lies and everything, if he doesn't believe him, that means he lies. It's one thing. If he does believe him, here's where the American people have problems. He's got extreme mental problem. If he believes what he's saying, which worries me and should worry everybody in the public who's voting, that there's something mentally wrong.
Well, I mean, I recommend, Carl, that, and thank you, by the way, Carl, I agree with you. I recommend that everybody, if you haven't had the opportunity to watch that press conference yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, that dumpster fire, that you should watch it. And Carl, I'm with you, my man, 150%. You're absolutely right. Obviously, Donald Trump needs to be put in a mental institution, but I said that years ago, Carl. You're absolutely right. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next on PTL. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian. All right, here's my piece. Now, I don't care what J.D. Vance says about Walz. I mean, at least Walz is more of a military guy to me, unlike him, because that's what he is. That's what Trump has always called them. They always call them suckers and losers. But me, I say Tim Walz, he's no sucker, he's no loser. The real sucker and loser is J.D. Vance himself, and I have to say his wife made a mistake of marrying him, because J.D. Vance wants to ban abortions, and he wants to ban interracial marriage.
Well, here's the thing on military service. Let me chime in on that. I'm just hesitant. I think this is a completely unacceptable situation where we're comparing people's military service, right? As long as you serve honorably, right? You're honorably discharged from the military or you retire. Because we had a caller on an hour ago. I didn't respond to it as far as pushback at all, and I should have. When you're talking about how, J.D. Vance was a pencil pusher over across the pond. All right, so I'm hesitant. Look, people serve in all different types of way in the military. It's not just always, 11 Bravo grunts that are on the ground in harm's way in wartime, right, in theater. There are people that serve in the military in all different types of capacities. So you can get into the weeds big time and look like a complete fool when you start comparing people's military service. So I have a real issue with that when talking about it. Look, if you serve the country honorably, right, you're honorably discharged, you didn't commit a crime or something that got you disgracefully removed from the military, then you should be applauded for your service, and you should be honored for your service. And that's kind of the way that I look at it with respect to that. I get that people want to come out because J.D. Vance breaks one of the cardinal rules and comes out and starts and starts repeating lies about Tim Walz's service. That's something that he should be called out on, and we have called him out on that. And anybody else that does that as well, too. But, again, I'll repeat what I said earlier in this show, brother. As someone who did serve this country, it just gets me infuriated to hear people, especially people that did not serve this country, thinking that they're entitled to speak on, the level of other actual veteran service to this United States of America.
Yep. Amen.
And furthermore,
yep. Go ahead, Joseph.
Okay, and furthermore, as I say about the debate coming in September, I do hope that Kamala Harris will bring out everything about Trump, about how he is an incel who wants to punish women in an extreme way by banning abortions and ending no-fault divorces and interracial marriage. And also, I want her to say the same thing about him and Mr. Big Mouth Mark Robinson, of how Mark Robinson wants the same thing. He wants to punish women, and not to mention the way Mark Robinson looks. He looks like he's eating the same food as Donald Trump is eating, probably Big Macs and Diet Coke. No wonder he wasn't fit that suit.
You might be right about that, Joseph, and I do appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you. We got to take some more calls, and then we got to take another break. So I just got the information from the Harris campaign on where the event will be tomorrow night.
Indoors? Indoors, Brian, right? Talk to me.
I'm not allowed to say, I will tell you off the air, but I'm not allowed to say on the air. According
If it's
to this
indoors or
email.
outdoors, you can't say?
No, you got to let me finish the sentence. I'm not allowed to say where the exact venue is right now, but for media purposes, because I'm credentialed. But I will say this. It is indoors, which I'm
There you
very
go.
happy to
Boom.
hear. Number two, it's a place that we frequent a lot. And I'll tell you off the air. I'll let you think about that for a minute.
I probably know what it is. Yeah.
No, it's not Arizona, Charlie.
But that caller brings up a great point, Brian. Here's the thing. We talk about juxtaposing, one position against another. When it comes to those debates, Brian, what's going to happen? It's going to be Kamala Harris, right? The prosecutor, the person who actually worked in the legal system, who is for law and order, against who? Against the convicted felon, somebody who's on the other side of the system, right? Someone who talks about how they believe that they're law and order, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's going to be a huge factor when we talk about, contrasts between the two campaigns and between the two people at the top of the ticket. It's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, and that's what's going to be very interesting about the debates, that whole dynamic as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Why don't we go to Donovan, who's next up on PTL. Hello, Donovan. Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm from Washington.
Thanks for calling in, Donovan.
D.C. or state?
State.
Nice.
Gotcha. What's on your mind today, my friend?
I just wanted to know how you guys feel about Tim Walz being a military deserter and drinking horse cum.
Okay, well, thank you so much
Great
for
call.
the phone call.
Great call.
Yeah, unfortunately,
waited on hold, Brian Shapiro, to have those preposterous and just ridiculous comments.
Unfortunately, there are...
Be better, brother. Be better.
Unfortunately, there are some people with no life.
Idiots.
That when talking about
Morons.
serious issues...
Yes.
And listen...
Jackasses.
I don't mind prank phone calls if they're actually funny. I don't think there's anything funny about going after somebody's military service. Now, that's just me. I'd like to think I have a pretty good sense of humor, and if somebody wants to call in and make fun of, something else, I don't mind a prank call now and then. I don't mind it at all. In fact, I grew up with the Jerky Boys, right? I grew up with the Jerky Boys and Richard and Sal from the Howard Stern Show. I'm all for it, right? It's fine.
I'm calling about the job.
But when you call in and you make a joke about somebody's military service, I think it says a little bit more about the individual.
You insulted his military service.
702-221-7283 is the number to call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Pam. Pam is next up on PTL. What's going on, Pam?
Hey, good afternoon. So, Brian, I have been watching all the rallies.
Yep.
Each one is even more invigorating. They share more and more of who they really are. They're involving the people. They're invigorating the people. They're reaching out to the people. There will be a time, I'm sure, once we get through the DNC, there will be those interviews. The media, is still lapping up every word that Donald says, and they're not calling him out on anything, and that's all good and fine. But the people are really appreciating them reaching out. They're invigorated. They are welcoming these rallies, and there's a lot of energy going into these rallies.
Sure.
So as far as an interview, we'll have time for those interviews next month after the DNC, after Donald's completely lost his shit because he's losing it.
I think he's lost it for a long time. I think he's been losing it for a very long time. It's funny how all these MAGA Republicans were saying that Joe Biden's too old. If we go back in history, right now, Donald Trump would be the oldest man ever to win.
Right.
So the bottom line is when you look at who he confuses himself others with, the things he says, the blatant lies. It's not even trying to lie. I mean, you can be fact-checked in an instant. When you make an idiotic statement
Right.
that 75% of the country are MAGA supporters, when you make an idiotic statement that, he's got bigger crowds than Martin Luther King Jr., when you make these types of statements and then you confuse Willie Brown with the former governor of California, when you do these things, you won't hear that. I mean, he did. That's the crazy part. It's so weird. These are weird people.
Right.
These are weird times we're living in, Pam, unfortunately. And we have to continue to call it out. And I am really looking forward to the Harris rally tomorrow. This is a really important state, and I am really, really disappointed in the state of Nevada because all the polls that I see show that Donald Trump's 4 or 5 points ahead. There's just a lot of stupid people, I guess, that live here. I don't even know what else to say. I mean, I don't understand how Nevada has turned this way towards Donald Trump. I don't understand it. Are you got a bunch of these rancher cowboy guys wearing the hats that still live in the state of Nevada that are Mike McDonald fans and fake electorate fans, and I don't understand. I just don't get it.
It's all for show.
I don't understand.
We've
Trump,
talked about
Trump
this.
has
Pam,
lost his edge.
No, but Pam, haven't we? And Brian, haven't we talked about this though for years? And when I say years, I mean the last, almost a decade. The reason why, Brian, is because Republicans are Republicans. They're going to vote for Republicans. Right. If you have an R next to your name, all right, they're going to make excuses, and because their frame of mind is what we want Republican principles.
Well, I got to tell you,
we want to stand by our. We believe, and Donald Trump, even though he's not a Republican, Donald Trump's not even a Republican. He's not. But they're going to stand by him because Republicans will be able to do Republican stuff. If Donald Trump has an R next to his name and he gets elected.
Well, I got to tell you.
Why.
Well, I got to tell you something. Like a personal friend of mine, and thank you for the call, Pam. Nice
Thanks,
to hear
Pam.
from you. Like a personal friend of mine who's the former chair of the Republican Party here, Amy Tarkanian.
Yeah.
There are plenty of Republicans out there, mark my words, throughout the country, that will not be voting for Donald Trump. Now, there are some that say it publicly, and I know you have the organization Republicans for Trump, and there's the Jeff Duncans out there, and the Joe Walshes, and the Mooches, and, prominent people, and even Mike Pence, who said he will not vote for Donald Trump. But there are a lot of people quietly that will be, Republicans I'm talking about right now, quietly.
They're not going to vote at all.
Hold on. That will be maybe some, but there will be some Republicans that are quiet about it, and they won't be saying it publicly. But they will be going to the voter booth in November, and I believe some of them will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Well, let me respond to that point, Brian, okay? When it comes to elections, and I've talked about this, we had Joe Walsh, and you and I and Joe Walsh got into a discussion about this, and I was trying to point this out, and Anthony Scaramucci, you've had on the show, talked about this as well, too. Elections aren't about turning Trump voters into Harris voters, right? It's not about that. Elections are about what? It's about getting out your vote. What do I mean by your vote? I mean Democrats. The reason why Walz is a positive thing, and we pointed out, and by the way, you had Grant Stern on the show when you talked about this. You talked about this when we initially found out Tim Walz was going to be the vice presidential candidate, right? And Grant made a tremendous point, and I concur, and I continue to make the point to this day. Elections are about getting out Democrats and progressives in droves, right? You want to gin up your base. You want to get people fired up. It's also about getting out the Brian Shapiros, the independents that lean left, right, and getting them energized to get out and vote. It's not about turning the table. It's not about getting MAGA to turn into Democratic voters. That's not what it's about. So the choice of Tim Walz and obviously by extension the top of the ticket, Kamala Harris, what's so energizing about the campaign, Brian, all right, is that they are getting this excitement going, that there is the perception, and it's showing in the polls, and polls you can take it for what it's worth, that they are going in the right direction as far as getting their base fired up to vote, and that's how they're going to win the election in November.
I don't think anybody would debate that. There's certainly, as she would even admit, a lot of work to do before then. But so we have a lot of people waiting on hold. I promise you we'll try to get to all of you, and I think we will. Donald, Paul, Armando, Julian, plenty of people waiting, and I got to tell you, sit tight. I promise I'll get to you on the other side. And that number, 702-221-7283, is the number to call. I want to tell you guys about the official gaming bar of the Pushing Limits radio show. It's called Jackson's Bar and Grill. Chris frequents it all the time, as I do the other day as well. So they have a great promotion this month. It's really cool where if somebody hits a taxable jackpot, as long as your card's in the machine and you're actively playing, you're going to get $20 in free slot play. So we're all a family there rooting for everybody. Of course, I hope I hit the jackpot, of course. And then I still want the $20 free play. But no, in all seriousness, check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great food, great atmosphere, great people, and tell them that I sent you. All right, we'll take some more phone calls when we come back at 702-221-7283. Sit tight. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. And as I mentioned before, we are a independently owned radio show. Costs money to put a show together every day, so we rely on good people like yourselves, and we've had some wonderful people today that have purchased some shirts, some I wouldn't call it memorabilia, but some stuff, some PTL gear, right? Some stuff like this, and we appreciate that. We've had some donations too. I'll be reaching out to all of you as a thank you this weekend, so I appreciate that. If you want to be involved in the show and you want to contribute, here's what you would do. go to our website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, the website's pushingthelimits.live. We do sell merchandise on there. You can sign up free for the newsletter. And there's also a donate button. So if you don't want to buy merchandise, you could donate. Doesn't matter what it is, whatever you can afford. $5, $10, $20. We appreciate anything. And it allows us to do what we do. If you like what we do, help us continue this thing going. And we appreciate you guys for all the help. And, of course, our sponsors and all of our loyal listeners. And it's a show that is growing every day. It's interesting because I was talking to a friend of mine who does some stuff with Occupy Democrats, and he was telling me, when they started putting the show up on Occupy, like the listenership is like quadrupled, and I'm really humbled by that. We get calls all over the country, and this is no different because we're going to go right back to the phone calls. We have a lot of people, Chris, that have been waiting patiently on hold, so I certainly want to get back to those phone calls.
Yeah, to that point, Brian, tremendous engagement when it comes to that PTL Occupy Democrats Facebook page. We really appreciate that. And, of course, on the PTL YouTube page as well, too, a lot of engagement when it comes to the listeners. So very good stuff on a Friday afternoon.
And Chris is usually one of those listeners as well.
I'll chime in. I get fired. I'll get into it. Yeah.
All right.
You know my MO.
Well,
that's how I work,
Well,
man.
that's a good thing. I like that. All right, let's get back to the calls. Let's go to Donald, who's next up on PTL. Hi, Donald. Where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Donald. I'm calling from California.
Thanks for calling in, Donald. What's on your mind today?
Yes, I just want to say make America great again. Trump.
All right, hold on. Don't hang up on him.
Right, don't.
Why?
Right.
He's allowed to say make.
You can say that.
He can
That's
say.
not, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, if he was going
You're
to swear.
not going to blast him for that, right, Chap? We're not going to do that.
No. So, Donald, here's what I would like you to do. If you're smart enough to have a conversation, which I'm not sure you are, I think that's still up in the air. There's nothing wrong. If you want to call in and say, make America great again, that's fine. But I want to try to have a serious conversation with somebody like you. Why do you support Donald Trump? Now, I don't think you're capable of having that conversation. I'll be honest with you. But if you'd like to call back, I'm more than glad to have that conversation with you. I just don't think Donald Duck was smart enough to call in. But
Put
Donald,
your MAGA fingers
and
on the
have that
phone, brother, and
conversation.
dial back if you have an
I
actual
don't
serious
think Donald is.
conversation.
But Donald, prove me wrong and try calling back. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going, Brian? I talked to you about a week and a half ago, and I remember talking to you about those document case.
Yes.
Has anybody heard anything going on? What the hell's going on with that damn case?
No, document case is buried right now.
Yeah.
Okay, the judge
but
obviously.
they need to unbury that.
Yeah.
Ask the Rosenbergs how much proof they had on them when they executed them for treason.
Well, it's in the appeal process, right? Technically, it's
Yeah.
in the appeal process, so it's in the weeds.
It is interesting.
The judge buried it.
It is
successfully,
interesting that
and it's a disgrace.
you'll hear a lot from the far
Well,
right where they'll call it a two-tier justice system. Yet we have a Trump judge who is obviously biased, but you won't hear that, right? He'll call her brave and all these other nice things, but it's in the appeal process.
Right, I understand that, but you know what? All she did is the judge should be charged for obstruction because that's what she did.
Well, she
did
should be
not follow
dismissed.
the rules of law.
She should be dismissed. She should obviously be dismissed from the case, and they should put someone else in there. But at the same time, let's keep hope alive here. It is in the appeal process. If there's one person that I have confidence in, it's Jack Smith. The guy's been doing this for a very long time. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play the game.
Oh, yeah.
So have some faith. I still think that. And how stupid is Donald Duck, by the way? How stupid is this guy that he defies a subpoena for a year, putting some of these classified documents in the crapper? I mean, how dumb of a person do you have to be? I mean, he's just a really dumb person.
My question is how many people from other countries, let's use Russia, China, and North Korea, how many got copies of some of that stuff?
It's a really good question, and let's hope we find out that answer in a courtroom. And I appreciate you calling in, my friend. If I hear anything new.
I do have one more thing.
Sure.
I do have one more
Go
thing.
ahead. Yep.
Being a 23-year vet myself, and that guy that called, back a couple times ago, what the hell is he thinking?
No,
that guy served his country. I've had people jump in me because I'm Air Force, and of course I couldn't serve and fight. You know, everybody serves a purpose. I've been in places where I've been a cop. I've been working on classified, like I told you last time, and this shit's ridiculous.
Paul, I'm with you, my friend, and I'm with you, and I appreciate the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Julian calling from Vegas, who's been waiting on hold. Julian, thanks for your patience. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, of course. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
So before I get to my main point, I heard something that really puts the age thing into perspective, which is Tim Walz could theoretically serve as vice president for 2 terms, then run for election, win the presidency, serve there for 2 terms, and he would still be younger than Donald Trump is currently running.
Yeah,
you do get some interesting things, right, when it comes to the whole age dynamic. Think about this one. I was thinking about this yesterday because I was watching Team USA basketball. You guys understand that LeBron James and J.D. Vance are essentially the same age? Think about that.
What?
LeBron and J.D. Vance are the same age, and J.D. Vance is running where he's a heartbeat away from the presidency of the United States.
Yeah.
That's just wild to me when you think about the age.
That's insane. So the main point I wanted to bring up, and I can't remember if this happened 2 days ago or yesterday, and I'm sure, and I missed the first hour, and so I'm betting you probably talked about it.
Yeah.
But the way Kamala Harris dealt with the pro-Palestinian people interrupting her rally
I talked about that
was
yesterday.
a masterclass.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first of all, and thank you, by the way, Julian, for the call, calling out of Las Vegas. First of all, what people don't understand is, well, some people, MAGA idiots, perhaps, is that she was very respectful to those people earlier in the speech. You know, she pointed them out, and she said, listen, you have a right. Your voice deserves to be heard. But, you know, I'm speaking. And then she got a little bit more forceful later on. Listen, I don't care whether it's a Trump rally or a Harris rally. If you disagree with the candidate, that's okay. But to interrupt, I would even say that with Trump, to go there and to interrupt the candidate when they're speaking, you're just a moron, okay? You're a moron. And yes, I agree with you, Julian. I thought Harris handled that very well. And I expect tomorrow at the rally in Vegas, there'll be more morons out there, and I promise you I will address them. I am going to that rally tomorrow early. I am going to address any of the anti-Harris people and the MAGA crowd. I'm sure there will be some there. And trust me, I will go up to every single one of them if I can, and I will interview them, and I'll go up to them. 702-221-7283. Who do we have next here? Let's go to Damon. Damon is next up on PTL. What's going on, Damon?
Hey, what's going on, Brian? What's going on, Chris?
Hey, Damon.
I'm looking at the irony in this, Brian.
Yeah.
We got all these black women coming up against Donald Trump. You got the Fannie Willis. You got the DA in New York. You got the reporter the other day that was asking him tough questions.
Yep.
Then in the end, what's really going to bring him down is Kamala Harris and the whole appellate court that he's appealing the New York case to are all black women. And the only one in all these court cases Donald Trump got that looks like a DEI hire is the white judge. That's what's killing me. But on Kamala Harris, I've never seen anything like this, Brian. I only read stuff like this or saw it on stuff about Kennedy and all that kind of stuff. This is a movement. I've never seen this many volunteers in this little bit of time. I've never seen this much money donated by first-time donors.
It's incredible.
This is a movement, Brian.
It is.
And I'm a pessimist. You know me well enough to know that I'm a pessimist. But somebody asked me the question about 30 minutes ago, and I said, no, I know she's going to win because on top of all of that, you got the girls, women mad about that abortion stuff, Brian. Mm-hmm. That's low-key under the surface. They didn't forget that. A woman, I don't know if you ever did a woman wrong, but they don't forget. And when they go to those polls, they're going to be pissed off, Brian. They're going to be thinking about their daughters.
I agree.
They're already talking about it. There are fathers on social media, Damon, that are already bringing this up and talking about this, how, you know, think about your mother, think about your sister, think about your daughters, think about your nieces, right? And when it comes to this issue. And by the way, Brian and David, Trump brought up the whole abortion situation and tried to downplay it yesterday, was trying to act like it's not going to be a major issue in the campaign. It absolutely is going to be a big issue.
But hold on, not only did he, I guess you could characterize it as downplaying. He didn't answer the question. He was asked specifically about a referendum in Florida, and he's not telling people how he would vote on it because he's scared. I would tell you, Damon, this has I don't want to compare this to Obama, but I guess in this aspect I will. The excitement around the Democratic Party and this country, around this country, it has the feeling of when Obama first ran for president. And I believe it'll be a very emotional day for women, many women in this country. Listen, you're going to get the MAGA turds out there that would be upset, but there's a lot of people in this country. I think it'll be a very emotional day if, in fact, Kamala Harris does win the presidency. I think it'll be a great day for the country. And unfortunately, it's not going to ruin my life, but it'll be a very disappointing day for me personally if Donald Trump does in fact win. I think it'll be a disappointing day for a lot of people. But Damon, let's hold our heads high. Will you be going to the Harris rally tomorrow in Vegas?
Yes, I will if I can.
Well,
I just found out about it. But if I don't, I just want to say this, Brian, to all my beautiful black sisters out there listening, keep making history.
That's right. And if you see a very thin, sickly-looking, pasty white guy wearing a fedora, be sure to say hello to me tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate the call.
Okay, I will.
Thanks, Damon. All right, have a good one, pal. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Larry. Larry is next up on PTL. Hi, Larry. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Western Kansas.
Well, thank you for calling in, my friend. What's on your mind today, Larry?
Well, I wanted to call on Friday because of your upcoming guest. I wanted to talk about you hate Trump. You know, I don't hate Trump. He's a disgusting person and all, but it's really, hate is such a bad word, but what I really don't like is what he has revealed to me about my family, that the hatred in them that I didn't know existed, the racism that I didn't know existed.
Wow, you're bringing up something. I want to dissect this with you, Larry, because this is something really important that I talk about on this show every day, where Trump has not only divided the country, but he's dividing families and friendships and that sort of stuff.
Right.
You're telling me, Larry, because you sound like a reasonable man, you're telling me that you realize that there are people in your immediate family that have this hatred in their heart because they support Trump, and they maybe echo some of the things that he says. Am I getting you right on that?
Yes.
Wow.
They're extremely religious, pious, holier than thou, Bible thumpers, and they look down upon me because I don't go to church every day.
Wow.
It's what they're all MAGA crazies.
And what's unfortunate, Brian, is that your story is not unique, Larry. Many of us, myself included, have this exact same situation in our families. And there's only one common denominator, gentlemen. What is the common denominator? There have been Republicans that have been in office for decades, all right? Since I've been alive, since Brian's been alive, and you've been alive, right, Larry?
Right.
No other Republican president has created this dynamic that Donald Trump has created, in which family members do not even speak to each other based on their political viewpoints. That has become much more magnified in the last 8 years since MAGA and all things Donald Trump has come about, Brian Shapiro. It's a fact. It just has happened. Larry's situation is not unique to himself.
Larry,
it is all over the country.
Larry, I'd like to dissect that with you a little bit more when we have a little bit more time. I want to get to some other callers, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've had to go through that, and I'm sorry that you have family members that have been brainwashed, because that's what it sounds like to me, but I appreciate you calling in and at least sharing that. 702-221-7283. All right, occasionally we get people that are MAGA supporters that call in and want to have a conversation sometimes. Let's go to Herb. Herb is next up on PTL. What's up, Herb?
Hey, Herb.
Hey, how you doing, you guys? Listen, Brian, I have to call your show from time to time to try to get a clarification on things, because I just don't understand it. But yesterday when Kamala was speaking to the press for about a minute and a half, she had said in her speech that day that she wanted to attack inflation, and she wanted to get a hold to it when she got into office.
Who wouldn't want to?
Guys, No. It's something that we all want. No doubt about that. But my question is, how is she going to do it? What are her plans on doing it?
So, do you understand any of her policies and the things that she's talked about in the contrast with the economy compared to her and Donald Trump? For example, Donald Trump had the highest tax breaks for the rich. He's already promised that. I believe tax breaks for middle-class families and not giving tax breaks to the rich will put more money in people's pocket. That's number one. That will absolutely 100% help when it comes to inflation. When it comes to policies, for example, like not having maternity leave or helping mothers raise children that are suffering, that are living paycheck to paycheck. That'll put extra money in their pocket. That's number two. Number three. Okay, you don't want. If you don't want to let me finish, and you want, I can name you 20.
I thought you were through.
No, I'm not through. I see, because I could name you 20 or 30 differences that Harris will do to help the economy and to help everyday, regular day families. And by the way, it could be any governmental program with families that are struggling. Could be food stamps, could be welfare. Basically, any government program that Harris is for, Donald Trump is against, because he had the biggest tax breaks for the rich in the history of this country, at least in my lifetime. I know that is 100% to be a fact. And by the way, if people like you want to criticize Harris, because I know a lot of right-wingers out there.
I haven't said anything,
okay,
Brian. I'm asking you.
And I just asked you a question. Brian, he asked you, calm down. He asked you a question.
Okay, hold on.
And you're answering it to the extent that you can, because you don't have expertise. But
hold on. Herb, I said if. I didn't say you were, so I need you to pay attention. I said if people like you are criticizing Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for the inflation that we've had in this country over the last 3.5 years, then all you have to do is compare this country to the countries that we compare ourselves to, the G-Summit countries across the world. We are doing better than just about all of them. Joe Biden and Harris didn't create inflation around the world. We had a war in the Ukraine, which we still have, the war in the Middle East and the issues we have there, which we still have. We were coming out of a global pandemic. So if you want to give credit to the Biden administration from where inflation is now to where it was, you go right ahead and you can do that. I will choose the woman who has helped get us out of inflation, who has pure policies that will direct us continuing to go in the right direction over the orange man who has given us the biggest tax breaks to the top 1% in American history. Now I'm done.
Can I ask you a question right quick? Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What was the inflation rate at the time that Biden took office?
I'm just asking. Sure. I don't have the inflation number right in front of me. What I will tell you.
I can tell you what it was. Let me tell you what it was.
Okay, what was it?
Let me tell you.
Oh, sure.
It was 1.5%. Biden said it was 9.5%.
Sure.
So right off the bat, you're wrong.
Okay, so first of all, how can I be? Hey, dummy! How can I be wrong when I didn't even answer your question, you fool? Don't hang up on him. How can I be wrong when I didn't even answer your question, you dope? That's number one. I'm not wrong. If you compare this country to the G-Summit countries across the world, we are doing better than they are. Hey, dope, did we have a war in the Ukraine when Joe Biden took office? No, we didn't. And we were just starting to come out of a pandemic thanks to Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. Did we have the war in Palestine, Gaza, the conflict with Israel when Biden took office? Those are all factors that cause inflation, but sadly, you're not smart enough to understand that. So you're wrong.
I know.
You're wrong.
I know, Brian. I'm a dope.
What did I say that's wrong? What did I say that's wrong? And I'm asking you. What did I say that's wrong? 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 Answer the question, you dope. You MAGA dope.
I will.
What did I say that's wrong?
I'll tell you what it is.
Go ahead, dope.
I'll tell you what it is. If you think that raising taxes are going to cut down inflation, you're dumber than I thought you were.
Okay, well, guess what? So what you're trying, and then he hangs up the phone, you coward, you dope. So what you are doing, you stupid MAGA moron, is you are trying to make the case that the biggest tax breaks for the top 1% is great for the economy and doesn't hurt us. What I'm trying to tell you, with any person with an IQ over 20 that doesn't wear the Donald Trump knee pads like you do, sir, is that when you don't give tax breaks to the top 1%, and as Joe Biden has said, they pay their fair share, and you allow tax breaks for middle-class Americans that maybe are making less than $60,000 a year in household income, they'll put extra dollar bills in their pocket, and they'll be able to go see a movie. They'll be able to go to a restaurant. They'll be able to go spend money with their kids and do things that they normally wouldn't do. The tax breaks in this country shouldn't be going to the top 1%. They should be going to people in this country that are working, that are paying taxes, but that are living paycheck to paycheck and that are struggling. And I'm sorry, sir, if you're bird for brains and you don't seem to understand that. I try to spell it out for you, sir, but you didn't address anything that I said. You just made idiotic comments and idiotic statements because you're a MAGA deplorable. So go ahead and vote for your orange turd, rapist, 34-count felon. You go ahead and you walk with your little Trump fingers and you go there. You go there and you bring your Confederate flag with you. You go right ahead, sir, and you do that. But I could care less because at the end of the day, Harris is the one that is going to be the next president of the United States, not your orange turd rapist leader.
And I'll chime in real quick, Shab, because so you can take a breath because your head's about to explode. And I'll give Herb a little quick advice here. Herb, when you call into the show and you ask an open-ended question like, what is she going to do to fix the economy? You're calling into a radio show, brother. We're not economic experts, myself and Brian Shapiro, all right? We don't have time in a 2-hour show, especially in the last 5 minutes of the show, to break down every single aspect with respect to how she can fix the economy. So don't ask questions that are so open-ended, and then you got Shapiro all kinds of fired up.
No, it's all right.
He literally is a raspberry right now at the end of the show.
Chris,
I know you got to run, because you just went. You had to talk about this for literally 6 minutes straight.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I also want to tell everybody that if you want to be a part of this show and you want to actually contribute and you enjoy what we do here, I ask that you check out my website, which is pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise up there, and also there's a donate button if you want to be a part of that. And it doesn't matter whether it's $5, $10, or $20, whatever you can afford. We certainly appreciate that. So please check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. I will continue to go after people like Herb every day on this show. That ain't changing for me. I appreciate Chris for being here as well, and I am looking forward to the Harris rally, which is tomorrow in Las Vegas. We'll have all the coverage for you on Monday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style